Hey, look, dude, I'm just saying the number one isn't even a digit that's system compatible with the imagination of people who are just too deep into video games these days. I mean, shit, look at the amount of these price hikes we gotta deal with. They queue up in dual libraries of 2 at minimum now. Like, if we're having a dialogue on gaming, there are Mario Party entry numbers of temptation that spawn in all corners of the map within each gaming platform, like those exclamation mark side mission NPCs you keep trying to avoid. Every current major gaming chipset chest of plastic we know as modern consoles has a backlog of previous systems that you can also seek out to proudly display, and then, swap out like 10 video cables each time you want to play on a different system sharing one TV. And each of these said consoles, new and old, usually have their own unique purpose and justification to buy for the players who want to experience the feeling of actually owning them, unless you're talking about paying the inflated retail price for an Xbox Series or a Nintendo Switch 1 right now. Now that's, how do I tell you? That is a scam. You just got way too many options when it comes to wanting something from the latest system releases that are still being officially supported, or more retro consoles from the past generations that are still being, well, unofficially supported. Because imagine running a vanilla Wii U with no mods installed in this day and age. Like, you could do it, but I'm gonna keep spamming the jump button in Smash Bros because I need to know why. And you know what's crazy, man? As a wizard right now, looking down at an extension cord of at least 3 different console plugs, just one potion spill away from giving me electric Pokemon shock therapy, I would be a straight up hypocrite to just try and outright hit pause on your playthrough of collecting different consoles for whatever reason you feel like you should be having them do. Like, being for real, it can be fun as hell looking at a spread of systems that you're truly passionate about, and then just having the option to choose which one to pull out and then start a good ass gameplay session, completely mixing up the X and A buttons when you switch between Nintendo and Xbox platforms. It's gonna happen at least one time. Having more than one console just feels like something that's Thanos inevitable, but unfortunately, I've been cursed with the knowledge to know that, like everyone else in the player count still behind the sticks, man, I'm only getting older and more wiser to my true gaming needs as I watch a lot of my past collecting habits phase out at the same rate as 8th gen console games get pushed to the bargain bin section of Walmart. Both are going slow, but definitely not stopping. Once you unlock the majority of the achievements that come with experiencing every level of video gaming, or don't even care to on account of doing adult shit draining your stamina low like Wii remote batteries every 5 freaking seconds, you just start chasing peace and simplicity within your gaming lifestyle over anything else. So what that type of simpleness turns into varies from player to player, like different region box art covers. But for some people, they can just grow to realize that they actually have a favorite console and would rather rack up their playtime hours on that one thing instead of using a bunch of different game systems all in like one rotation. Or more realistically, just use that one console for a long period of time until you finally decide you're ready to move on to the next one. We all got a dusty PS2 in the closet just waiting to get back in action. One console at a time is probably as easy as this hobby can be made for many players out here, and in this day and age of constant trends and fear of missing out, it just seems like this hypothetical fever dream way of playing video games that only gets more realistic as you eventually beat the final boss of chasing hype in this industry, to give yourself a chance at starting a new Game Plus mode of truly enjoying one platform. Something that's easier said than done, since having multiple consoles as a gamer naturally feels like an extension of your birth-given human rights. Like, you can't tell me the United Nations didn't have console collecting on their minds. You see, when it comes to playing on more than one system, a lot of people are so used to it that they barely ever think about how much space it consumes in our limited onboard storage of time to even play on all those platforms. Said storage that usually gets cut down as time goes on, just like the storage in modern consoles now too. Funny how that works. Every system usually has a crazy ass library of games that we want to get to when we get interested in buying them. That, or we just have our own headcanon to make that newer console purchase feel vindicated in the era of last gen ports holding on longer than me fandom in the Switch generation. When you have like several consoles keybind set to your rotation of gaming options, you could easily fall into the gameplay loop of stretching your playtime thin, trying to find time to use all those systems, or just start feeling like you wasted money when you don't play on another console you own as much as that maybe handheld you really only got energy to play in bed before you pass out for the night. One of the worst scenarios in gaming as an adult is feeling like you aren't living up to the gaming projections you made when you initially bought like a bunch of systems at one time. And it really sucks that most of these issues are only really conscious to players after it happens to them, since the chase in having this ultimate gamer setup has a debuff of blinding your true financial judgment on these things. Like, statistics show that someone you know is going to get diagnosed with paying those ridiculous GameStop retro price tags. Pray for them. But let me remind you, we're speaking on the simulated game mode of only having one system. So once all the extra console smoke clears and you can actually see what choices you can uninstall from your gaming lifestyle, I don't think there's a scenario where a player trying to put their gaming life on easy mode couldn't free themselves up from so many mental mind games that come with overdosing into this medium just a little too much. Like, when you're thinking about only one system, you have no extra hassle when it comes to getting games, since you likely know exactly what titles you can, cannot, and by all means gotta stay the fuck away from when it comes to a single console. The moment that gaming gets broken down into a single dedicated place for you to look over and say that right there is where I'm gonna lose my mind tonight playing DK Country Returns, then you lose even the brief hesitation that comes from considering which of the various console ports of that same game you want to play your main save on. A decision that you might not think is all that important, or might even have a community given answer based on which version of the game that players can get carried by in-game help the most, because Nintendo really threw us a bone with that 3DS and Switch item shop. But again, nothing else matters because you're only on one platform, a platform that may or may not even have that game available. So the only thing you gotta make a turn-based tactical choice on is figuring out if you can even play a game, and then whether you actually want to play that same said game. Man, it's such a simple lifestyle that turns game collecting into the most straightforward process ever, since you can walk into any store or any online retailer and just worry about looking at one game section that has everything that you would possibly need. Hopefully not in a section of games put in graded plastic cases, because at that price point, all the savings you could have had are just gone out the window. If you can learn to focus your title purchases to a single platform, it'll be so much easier to manage the library of games that you eventually plan on playing, especially when you consider that life tends to get more unpredictable and chaotic as you progress through reality's terrible Metroid other M-level storyline. So being able to take control of something in your life, even if it's as small as keeping your lineup of games locked to a unified place, that just goes a long way in keeping yourself at the forefront of being present in your gaming enjoyment and not being distracted with too much unnecessary stress. Because unfortunately, the worst kind of stress to deal with in gaming is the one that's constantly reminding you why game piracy will never ever not exist. Dude, when it comes to the monetary expenses of supporting multiple gaming consoles, if you've ever been in the position of buying stuff for different platforms at the same time, then I don't know how you couldn't damn near be salivating at the mouth thinking of the money you would save only focusing on a single console. Those eBay hauls will be so much easier. No matter whether you decide to remain a retro or more contemporary system, chances are the prices you pay are going to be drastically lower when you're in the market for just one piece of hardware. Of course, both older and new consoles have their own forms of wacky ass price tags that you'll eventually run into, because both the industry and certain resellers evolve from the same skill tree of greed specialty. But all the games, accessories, and even possible customization options you want to buy are much more fun purchases when you know that you won't have to repeat the process among like hella different consoles. I mean, in this simulation example of only using your favorite gaming device, I would imagine that you would enjoy having a complete setup of all the gaming peripherals and upgrades that can be bought with that console, since all of your attention is going to be allocated to only it. So after you have a good ass match of Halo 3 on the Xbox 360, you might get the urge to switch up the tempo altogether and then just flex that console's range by playing on one of those Kinect games for all of like 3 seconds before that damn thing stops calibrating again. You know how that shit goes. The retail gaming aisle is only going to grow more expensive, and the retro market has a lot of items that are going to get more scarce and become susceptible to shitty Amazon listing value over time. So once you get tired of trying to stretch those paychecks across several different platforms you can't even find the time to enjoy all that often, you'll be doing yourself so much of a favor keeping your funds on the right track like a minimap waypoint for just one console. But even if you don't want to do that, I can only hope it's common knowledge that eventually every console gains exploits and opportunities for modding that bypasses pretty much every form of software paywalls. I'm not condoning it, but I damn sure don't have a EULA agreement that says I gotta condemn it. Yeah, some players don't mind walking in the locked area of the map known as illegal gaming with stuff like piracy and modifications that give access to all the dope features you would not otherwise get, like emulation and unofficial apps. We don't gotta get too deep into it, but all you gotta know is that at the end of the day, players are going to do what they got to do to save $1, even if it goes against the law, just to get an unlocked version of a console. Honestly, the most fair trade-off if I ever heard one. No matter which way that you slice it, you're likely going to save more money than you otherwise would in any other scenario that you don't focus your money on just one console. And hopefully saving just as much enjoyment in your overall video game lore after you start realizing how much easier you can make picking up a game and only associating the hobby with fun and not something negative. So even though the digit 1 isn't a number that players are usually used to because we've for so long been sold on the idea of having a surplus of games, consoles, and trying to live up to the standards of people who show their collections on the internet or even in person, I just think at some point you gotta take a step back and really put yourself on the spot to try and figure out who you are as a gamer and what you really get out of this hobby when nothing else is influencing your decisions. Because dude, you never know. This whole time you were panicking about buying like every console imaginable, you might have only ever needed just one system to play on, and that would have made you set for the rest of your gaming lifespan. And that's all that I got for today, man. If you enjoyed, leave a like on the video, subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video.